So this section actually won't take much time, but it is in the sense interesting because it is much more current oriented. Okay, and basically Pol Science paper 2 is the section which is something which you'll be able to relate very often. Two reasons, like paper 1 section B is also something very relatable, but neither we discuss it in much detail nor it is asked in much detail because neither of us should go to jail or not the UPSC people. Okay, so paper 1 section B is Indian government and politics. If you start discussing Indian government and politics too much in detail, examples and all, that will be not so good. Like for example, I'll give you an example, like the section like PESA, okay, Panchayati Raj Extension to Scheduled Areas Act. Now, if you'll go into detail into PESA, there are issues, like there are ways to resolve militancy also mentioned in PESA itself. Fine, but it is not even asked. No one wants to discuss it. So when the government itself is not discussing it, who are we to discuss it? Fine, so let it be. Initially when it was made in 1996, PESA had those things. Now no one cares. Okay, if PESA is asked, also you have to give a very standard definition. Okay, Panchayati Raj Extension Act was brought by like H.D. Deve Gowda government, and subsequently it became what it became. So therefore, but in paper 2 there is no such bar because it's outside India, so you can have your judgments. Okay, you can say them yes, good, bad, bora, everything, and it's all fine. Okay, so that's how we start with paper 2. Okay, now and we are going to focus on section A first. Now just let me tell you section A and section B. So common misnomer is this, that section A is about theory of international relation and section B is about the practical thing which is happening. Okay, now this part is true that the contemporary global concerns, okay, are something which is discussed in this area, and that's it, that's all what is there in this area. But in this section it doesn't only have like the basics or the international relations theory, but it also has one section which is first part of this. Inside this is comparative politics. Then this section only contains the other parts, theory of IR, and then this section only contains some of the institutions of IR as well as some of the contemporary issues. Okay, so institution and working, like United Nations, okay, World Trade Organization, IMF, World Bank, where you will discuss these things, and these things has to be discussed. Okay. Now I'll just give you a basic one-line thing and you will understand it. What do you understand by comparative politics? What do you understand by the word comparison? Anything? Like, what do you understand by the word comparison? Comparison, like this better, what? This only, no? Like, one thing has to be better or bad than the other thing. Better or worse than the other thing, right? That is what comparison comes to. Okay. Have you ever heard, like, there are so many reports that freedom of press or freedom of expression report, freedom of press report, ease of doing business report, all these different reports comes in every year. Yes, news there are, it is always over the news that in this report India is on rank this, global hunger index is there, on this report India is on rank this, that all happened. So what they are doing, basically they are comparing the countries on specific indices. Like global hunger index, what it does, global hunger index compare the capabilities of the countries to feed its people in a nutritious, proper manner. Fine. So it picked up one index, that is hunger index, and then compared everyone on that. Right. Then you have something like ease of doing business. So, for example, in 2014, India was considered like one country where the business ecosystem was not very good. So, what that means is if someone wants to come to India and start a business, it takes a lot of time to set up the things. Fine. So, what government of India did, or government of India like specifically went into this ease of doing business thing and looked into it. Okay, fine. To rank what all things they look into. The World Bank, they understood that World Bank looks into how easily a new person can purchase land in India, how easily a new person can get a industrial electricity connection, how easily a new person can establish a company, means registration of a company and tax pattern and all those things, and how much relief a new company gets. Like immediately, suppose there's a small company. Suppose like there's ALS only. It's a coaching institution. Now, when you're establishing a coaching institution, it costs you a lot, like seat, table, chair, air conditioner, this and that and everything. Now, after that, every month you earn something. So initial investment is something which is bigger than the usual month, like what you earn. So if in the initial 2 months, 3 months itself, the government of India will start asking them a lot of tax, the company might fall. So what the government should do? Government should say, okay, fine. For the very first year, we will charge you lesser tax or no tax. Then from the next year, we will charge you proper tax, something like that. So that is a way of supporting businesses, and that is done not in the coaching industry, but in the most of the startup businesses. In the initial 3 years, even to establish a company and to close a company, it's very easy. Like to file a bankruptcy. Suppose you have to say, okay, fine, I started something, it didn't work, sorry. So fine, government says, okay, fine, don't pay anything, just go. Because they don't want to harass you. So these are different things which government did, keeping in mind that ease of business index we should improve. And you see that within 3-4 years, India improved also on that index. Now, why this index is important? Because on the international level, suppose there is some company or 2 people who are sitting in Sweden. Now, they don't understand the Indian market. Okay, they are Swedish people who have never been to Asian market and they don't understand how South Asia works. But they know very well that India has a huge population, and population means people, and people means customer. So they want to establish their company here. And they also have seen somewhere that with the increasing per capita income of India, suppose they are Swedish, what Swedish people, what they sell? Any idea what Swedish people sell? Suppose they're like a liquor brand, Swedish liquor brand, and they want to establish India, and they have, this is a good example. Let's say they are the Swedish liquor company and they want to expand in India, and they have understood that per capita income of India is around now going around $3,000 per capita income, and very soon it will reach 5,000. So they are feeling like if we establish ourselves right now, within 5 years, everywhere in India we will be, and within 5 years will be the time when Indian per capita income will also reach 5,000. Now it is another analysis which people know that when a country has $5,000 as their per capita income, the liquor consumption of the country increases. It is a very normal thing. When countries have a $2,500 income, you get a lot more restaurants. Like for example, here only, go downstairs, there's a Haldiram. I'm living in the city for 10 years. 5 years back, there was no Haldiram. Okay, now Haldiram is there. And not only this branch, as a brand thing. Okay, Haldiram was there, but it was not that the restaurant Haldiram. It was, they used to sell namkeens. Okay, so that's it. So what the thing is, now they understood, okay, the $5,000 it will get in 5 years. So if we'll establish ourselves from now, within 5 years, will become this. But they don't have an iota of a clue how Indian market works. So what they will do, the first thing they will go is ease of doing business. That everything is fine, but is it even viable? to go in India and establish a business. If they say that, okay, setting a business in India is even difficult in Iraq and Afghanistan, they are not going to come. Right? So we want that thing should be on the top. We should be somewhere in the initial part. Okay. Keeping this in mind only, you will see that ease of doing business was the index in Government of India worked. Now, what the hell this whole ease of doing business is? This is a ranking of the countries. And what is a ranking of countries? This is basically we are comparing the countries, right? That is the whole thing called as comparative politics. Okay, that is all what it is. The only thing is that ease of doing business, freedom of press index, these are new indices on which countries are compared. These are not the fundamental indices on which countries are compared. The fundamental indices are that per capita income, okay, how economically countries are doing, how socio-politically countries are doing. Now, these calculations are very difficult to do. And like in a generic sense, we do that. Let's compare the countries on the GDP numbers, right? Who's like America is number one. Why America is number one? The easy answer is that GDP is biggest, right? But if you go to San Francisco and you come back to India right now, today in 2024, you will say, no, it's better to live in Delhi. Like you will say, okay, fine, I don't want to live in anywhere in India, but if I have to compare between San Francisco and Delhi, you'll say I'll live in Delhi instead of San Francisco. It is safer to walk. Delhi is not considered a very safe city, but it is still safer to walk in Delhi after 8 p.m. in night than San Francisco. Fine. So, but on a holistic level, if you'll see, the GDP-wise America is far, far superior than India. So what we understood, that only the GDP number will not give you the exact precise standing of the country. So there has to be other indices. Okay. Then what these other indices are, what are these other criteria based on which this comparison will be done? That is what all about comparative politics. Okay. Now, if you remember when we are doing paper one's political theory section, so we did something very interesting, and that was called as David Easton's model. And I kind of explained, I'll tell you this thing. That Easton, after 1945, there was a stream of things that people said that we have to streamline the whole thing. And everything should be empirical, okay? Because most of the thing, even now, how we do, we consider it like, I feel something should be done, so I did it, right? But this is not how world works, okay? We have discussed about behavioralism now. Yes or no? Yeah. Yes. So understand this thing. So everyone wants to do what is better for you. Like if I tell you that you please sit here. Fine. No, I'm not saying you, but as an example. If I tell you you sit here, and you might ask me that why, and if I'll be like, nah, just because I feel it, you'll be upset. But imagine if I'll tell you that Yeoman has flu, and by the evening you'll also be affected. You'll be like, okay, thank you, sir, please. Okay. So I gave you a legitimate reason, okay, to shift to this side. Now, what happened because of this? What happened is that everyone requires a not legitimate or an illegitimate reason, but a acceptable reason, understandable reason. And the most easy understandable reason for anything is numerical values. Fine. If I will tell you that Mr. X is better than Mr. Y, and you're like, okay, what the hell is better? Explain me the criteria of better. But if I tell you Mr. X got 10 out of 10 and Mr. Y got 8 out of 10, easy. Now you exactly know where they stand. Fine. So this is the benefit of empiricism. If you can reduce everything in the value of yes and no, it becomes very easy. It's a binarification. It's what computer also does. So after 1945, this very thing started. In comparative politics also, this kind of behavior started, developing. People like David Easton and other people, after 1945, they actually worked on this very criteria. I gave you the example of Vietnam War, I think so. Yes or no? Yes? No? No idea? Fine, listen. Suppose, okay, you guys know Vietnam War happened? How it happened? People came in Vietnam and they fought. No. Okay. Just a quick revision. So just like India was a colony of Britain, Vietnam was a colony of France. Okay. 1940, France was captured by Germany. So if the country itself is captured by another country, what to say about the colony? So there was confusion what is going to happen in colony. So after 1945, when the French got the control of their own country, everyone thought that the French will leave Vietnam because they have to rebuild their own country, but they didn't do so. Everyone was hoping that they will leave Vietnam, but they didn't. Now, in these 4 or 5 years, when France was itself occupied, in Vietnam, a communist faction evolved that was under the leadership of Ho Chi Minh. Story went on. The French said that we are not going to leave Vietnam after 45. Even when Britain was leaving India, Britain was leaving Burma, Britain also left the same thing, Pakistan and all. France was like, no, we will not leave. Okay, everyone said, fine. Europeans were like, okay, fine, it's your colony, you decide. But by 1950s, these communists who became very prominent between 1940 and 45, the period when France itself was occupied, back at home, these communists started asserting themselves and there was a civil war situation inside Vietnam. There was a very famous battle which happened in Vietnam called as the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. I'm not making this word. This is a real word. And most of the class people are like, okay, sir, makes up random shit. No. There's a Battle of Dien Bien Phu, which was fought in 1954. And the French lost. The Vietnamese people won. And literally it was no one was really thinking that the Vietnamese will win against the French forces, but they won. Now after this, the French decided, okay, we will leave. So when the French left, then the Vietnamese thought that, okay, what we will do is, now we will establish our government, the communist government under Ho Chi Minh. But by this time already the Cold War has started. And America thought that, look, on the top in the north, there is Soviet Union. Soviet Union has a border with China, and then China has a border with Vietnam. Okay, so they were like, look, if the Soviets are communist and then Chinese also became communist in 1949, now in 1954, within 5 years, the Vietnamese are also becoming communist. This looks like a pattern. If this keeps on going, very soon the whole area, whole region will become communist, and that is something we don't want. This very thing is called as domino effect. Okay, now what Americans can do? So Americans decided we will have boots on the ground. That means we will send our army, we will station them, we will pick out the people who are anti-communist and will make a government by them, and we will re-establish the whole country. So the Americans came. When the Americans came, this time the same communist guerrillas, the communist fighters who were fighting with the French, they started fighting with the Americans. Now this fight went from 1954 until 1975 continuously. Right? Finally in 1975, exactly what just what happened in Afghanistan, we saw Americans came in 2001 and Americans went in 2021 and 2022. And what really has happened in between this? The Taliban was before 2001 also Taliban was there. After 2022 also Taliban came in. Whatever you want to say, but same people, like same ideology. So has you transformed anything? No. The same thing happened in Vietnam also. In 1954-55, the communists were there. In 75, when they went, communists again came back. Even now, they have opening of the market, but the regime is still communist. So you got a best like overall idea, right? Now the basic concept is this here, that if you compare, understood what happened in Vietnam? Yeah. Now, if you compare the scenario on the ground, that two people are fighting, and Mr. X is 6 feet tall and is maybe a champion of Aikido or a Taekwondo or some other fighting style, and also has a machine gun. And then there is another guy who is 5 feet tall and he has a polio in his legs, and they're going to fight. What your common sense says, who will win? The 6 feet guy. But what happened? The guy with the polio won. Okay. Big reason could be anything. The reason was that the 6 feet guy had other things to do in his life and he got bored. But the polio guy had nothing else, and he was like, okay, fine, I'll keep on fighting, no matter for how long. And he won just because of persistence. And that is what happened in this war. So in a generic sense, when we started looking in the binary words, so the whole thing went like this, that there is this place where the war is going, and there is an input. What is the input? What is going to the war? Resources in the terms of men and machinery and the monetary capability. Everything is going on. Okay? And because Americans are putting men and machinery and monetary capabilities, they thought that what will happen what will be the outcome of the war? Okay? Output kya hoga? What the outcome will be? The US victory. But this never happened. So the initial experiment or the idea or expectation never was fulfilled. Right? And then this very thing is what I'm trying to do is this is the Easton's model of input-output method, and this is something we have also discussed in political theory. Now, in political theory also, it was not very implementable. Like you develop like this only, that we will develop this political idea with this intention, and what will happen, that we have to look into. That usually doesn't comes out to be the actual result. This has been seen in past 70-80 years. So we have to discuss these kind of concepts also. There is not only Eastern model, other models also. Like for example, the easiest way of out is, like, suppose you will say, okay, fine, in normal world, there's a child who is like 5-year-old, and you will be like, okay, fine, if this child has money, he can go to school and then college and can become a very good person. And then you will say, okay, fine, I'll invest all the money. 20 years later, you meet the child. Might be a possibility that that guy has not even crossed the 10th standard. Because just the consistent source of money doesn't assure that the child will study and then cross the exams and go to the college and then get a job. So there are other constraints also. Now, the whole life is like this only. There are too many constraints, and no one can know about all the constraints all the time. That's impracticality. That's the thing when we go to philosophy. So in study of the international relation or the theory of international, a huge section relates to this only, that up to what extent we can come up with these constraints, we can understand these constraints. And we try to tabulate different models, right? So that we can predict the behavior of countries. That is the main agenda of the whole thing. For example, take the Chinese example. So, China is a communist country, yes or no? Yes. Okay. No, for that practical, yes only we'll say. Okay. Don't be confused. China is a communist country. Okay. Now, let's see this thing. But China is a communist country. And Chinese people also have the sense of nationalism. The Chinese nationalism. Like if you'll find, they have a concept called as Xinhua. Xinhua talks about the Chinese prominency in the world. If by any chance you ever get a chance to go to China, you will see the China, like we have a map in which Britain is in the mid, the Western hemisphere is there, and Eastern hemisphere is there, and we are on the eastern side, on the right hand side in the map. If you'll see, that is how you see the map. If you'll go to China, you will see the Chinese being in the mid. And in the east, there is Pacific, and in the west is India and everything. That is how they see the map. Fine. So the Chinese nationalism is also a concept. Okay. Now, for a country like Soviet Union, when the communism back in 1917, 1920, people like Trotsky, people like Lenin, even up to a certain extent, people like Stalin. What was more important, Soviet Union or communism? So you will say that for them, communism was important. They used to make communist international, and one of the biggest problems with the Soviet Union and rest of the world was Soviet Union was consistently trying to expand the influence of communism. Communism was very important for them. You see in the Chinese scenario, China in 1960s was communist. Soviet Union in 1960s was communist. Fine. By later part of 1960s, China and Soviet Union were fighting among each other. And China and America became friends after 1971. After 1971, China and United States became friends. Have you heard about it? Yeah. So there was this meeting in which the American NSA Henry Kissinger went to China and met Mao Zedong, and then the whole thing happened. So if you compare with that idea that Chinese are communist, Soviets are communist, okay, but Soviets and Chinese are fighting, whereas China and America came together, even though Americans are capitalist, hardcore capitalist, and Chinese are communist. So that tells you what? That tells you that for the Chinese people, nationalism is much more important than communism. Right? Make sense? Right? This becomes a theory. Now, this whole concept can be considered a hypothesis in international relations. Is the Chinese Communist Party there? Yes, they are there. Is the country China is a communist country? Yes, it is a communist country. But inside the country, you will see that for the Chinese system, for the whole country and the government, for everyone, the Chinese nationalism is much more important than communism also. Now, whenever you are going to do anything now regarding Chinese or the Chinese government, you always have to keep this hypothesis in mind. That is, what is more important for them, communism or nationalism? You will find the nationalism is more important for them. That is the reason you will continuously see that the Chinese have border skirmishes or border crisis, border issues, not only with India, with almost all the countries they have border with. Right? So this global dominance, everything with the Chinese or what they are doing, it's not coming from communism. It is actually coming from nationalism. Fine? This becomes a theory of international relations. That is how there are various, a lot of theories for every country. There is different concept, but obviously you don't have to read for every country. I'm just trying to tell you that what all we have to discuss in this first comparative politics, then the theory of IR and institutions, and why we have just discussed. And then we come to the section B, that is the current global concern. Now, when we'll be reading current global concern, for this it was very essential that you have some idea of the world history. Do you guys have any idea of world history? You have been taught world history or not? World history. I have been told that world history has been taught. Only 2 classes are remaining. Yeah. So okay, give me basics. Oh, that's fine. Whether it has been taught or not, it's fine. We will do it again if in case it's not done. American War of Independence has been done. French Revolution has been done. French Revolution. Okay. Napoleon. Adolf Hitler. Yes or no? Yes. You have been discussed these things. Hitler, who the hell was Hitler? Why the hell he came in power? Okay. Okay, Napoleon has not been taught now. Yeah, I know. That's not your fault or the faculty's fault. UPSC skips Napoleon. I think you should know because there's a new movie on Napoleon. Like this last year only it came. So it's a good movie. If you don't study world history, how you are going to watch the movie? So UPSC on a side, just to make sure that you understand the movie, I sometimes teach you people Napoleon for 2 hours so that you can watch the movie, which is 3.5 hours long. So it's a two thing. The same movie is also available in 2.5 hours, which was released in theaters also. But then there is a director's cut movie, which is the same movie in 3.5 hours. Okay, and it is not available on Amazon or Netflix. It is only available on Apple TV. If you want to watch, you can take my account, but only to watch that movie, nothing else. Yeah. So for this, no, that's all thing. That's a most preliminary basic thing. But beyond that also, there are certain issues which you need to you have to understand, and I'll just write them down. So what is expected is by the time we reach there, whenever you get time, read them. Okay, hit here and there because they are needed. Otherwise, your international relations will be gone. Okay, but I think international relations classes have been done. So Sir Jojo must have taught you all those things. For example, the formation. Just note down this formation of United Nations. Number 1. Then the Israel Palestine issue. This starts from 1948. Then you have a war in 1967. Then you have a war in 1973. Then you have an intifada in 1988. Then you have Oslo Accord in 1994. Then you have second intifada in 2000. Then you have another crisis in 2014. Then you have present thing going on in 2023. Fine. Now, in your classes, we will be discussing this basic thing and the reasoning why this all is happening. Okay, but what happened in 47, 67, 73? I can give you an idea, but has this been taught to you in international relations? You have not been taught Yom Kippur War, 1948 Nakba Day. Like they were Palestinian people and they were pushed out and the Israelis went in, or like Jewish people were given the land. No. Okay. Fine. We had to discuss all that. Fine. Okay. Just note down these things. Okay. Then don't note this one. These numbers are not required. Leave it. Because otherwise you'll say, okay, this is a phone number. We will do. Just give the heading this much only. Fine. Not required. We'll discuss this. Then number 3, that is the Korean War, or just give me a second. Chinese communism, 1949. Number 4, the Korean War, 1950 to 53. The Vietnam War, 1954 to 1975. This is an first Afghan War, or you should write the Russo-Afghan War. This is between Russia Russo Afghan War. (1979 to 1989). Okay, visible now? Okay. Then Russo-Afghan is done. Iran-Iraq War. 1980 to 1989. 88. Then this is done. Then Gulf War. 1991. And or before Gulf War. Gulf War will be next point. Disintegration of USSR and unification of Germany. (1989, 1991). Then Gulf War. 1991. That's the Iraq War. Have you heard about Saddam Hussein? So he fought with the Americans twice, in 2003 and earlier also in 1991. So this is the 1991 Gulf War. Then this Gulf War is done. Then the formation of European Union. This is 1992. Although the most basic fundamental treaty through which European Union works was done in 2009, but officially they were formed in 1992. Okay, so that is there. Then Balkan War. This is 1994 to 1999. This you might have heard about the country Yugoslavia that was disintegrated with this disintegration of Soviet Union itself, and then Yugoslavia got divided into many small countries, and these countries were Serbia, Slovenia, Kosovo, all these places. Now the problem is that these people have very many ethnic groups, small ethnic groups, and the ethnic groups were either Muslims or Christians or Greek Orthodox Christians. So everyone was fighting everyone else, and this led to another phase of rebellion or civil war kind of a situation in Eastern Europe. Okay, a lot of people were killed here also. So the basics, not too much in detail. It's not like anyone is going to ever ask you the name of the Prime Minister of Kosovo in 1998. No, that will not happen. But you just need to know, okay, these countries, who were these countries who were fighting? Okay, whether the Bosnia and Herzegovina has Muslim population or the Christian population, in which country Greek Orthodox Christian lives, that is what you need to know. No one is going to ask you again the name of the Bosnian Prime Minister or the Kosovo's president. That won't be asked. Okay, but just the basics, that why fighting happened, how it was resolved, the basics. Okay, written, these points written. Okay, then the attack on WTC and global war on terror. Along with this only, you also write invasion of Afghanistan 2001 to 2021-22. This whole thing. Then 13th, invasion of Iraq. 2003 to 2011 and 14, the global economic crisis 2008. Then the basic idea is the rise of multipolarity path to Pax Seneca. Then what the hell you people have done in these topics are not done, like these headings, anything in this, like have Jojo sir teaches Kim Jong-un and all. I remember Jojo sir teaches Kim Jong-un, Kim Il-sung. Sorry? You haven't completed all the year. I'll talk to him. Like, sir, kya padhaya hai? I'll ask him like what you have. Fine. No, don't worry. Even if it's not done, it doesn't take much of a time with me. I'll teach you like a story. These are like my fun topics. These are like every night when I go to bed, my YouTube on the TV automatically starts showing me documentaries on these things. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So written down these one. Yeah. Now, attack. Wherever you have written this thing down now, the list, click a picture and send it to me. You have written down a sheet of paper or not? You were not writing it. Look, yeah, you have written it now. Click a picture and send it to me. Okay. What is Pax Seneca? Like, what? You people are deciding who will send. Okay, half you send and half you send. Now, rise of multipolarity and path to Pax Seneca. Pax Seneca is like basically, the idea was, it's a Latin word, Pax Seneca. Seneca in Latin is China. Okay. So earlier, the world used to run by the Roman authority. So the world was called as Pax Romania. Okay. The Romans were considered the people, like, and the like right now you must have heard, okay, the British people, the British men are considered as gentlemen. Okay, so that everything is coming from Pax Britannica, when the Britain used to be the biggest power in the world. So that's called as Pax Britannica, which happened in the 17th, 18th and 19th century. If you'll go like 2000 or like 1800 years back, you'll find Pax Romania. That's where the concept of romantic man comes. The Roman man who is deceitful but fun. Okay. On the other hand, the British people they're like very straightforward, honest, integrity. That is what is said. Although they are more deceitful. So then comes, or basically after 2008, the world start moving towards Pax Seneca. Okay. You people have taken the picture. Send it, and I'll send you a proper formatted copy. Because I'll get why I'm asking you, like, because whatever you have made notes, these topics, I'll get the handouts done. Okay, otherwise this itself is a syllabus. This is not a prerequisite, this itself is a syllabus. So these basics you need to know, and then we can discuss that what all has to be studied after this. As in, now understand, suppose right now, yeah, Walter, yeah, yep. You just joined the class or what, Walter? Okay, fine. So this is something. Okay, now understand this point. Formation of UN, Israel, Palestine, Chinese. Like for example, right now the Israel-Palestine conflict is going on, right? Unless and until you understand what all happened right from 1917 onwards, you won't be able to understand Israel-Palestine. Okay. Same thing is the Chinese communism also. If you want to understand what the hell is going on between the North Korea and South Korea, okay, sorry, online people think that they got the link only at 11:50. You give me a call after the class, explain me whatever you missed and like where you joined from. Sorry. Now, right now, if Vietnam War is something which is not much discussed, but the Afghan War is very important. The Russo-Afghan War. Okay. Whenever you people are free, like how many people watches, like actually do get time to watch movies and all? I won't tell anyone. Tell me. Do you get time? Yeah. Fine. So I'll just tell you to watch a movie again. Like every time I do, I'll just let me check. Okay. So there's this movie called as Charlie Wilson's War. Anyone has seen it? Charlie Wilson's War. No. Walter, have you seen it? Yes. Pinky has seen it. Good, Pinky. Right. So Charlie Wilson's War. Okay, it's a war about not Charlie Wilson. It's basically the Russo-Afghan War, which was fought between 1979 and 89. Okay, and this actually gives you a base of what happened. So, like, there's this instance in 1991, for example. Like a few days back, it was all around. Like, okay, anyone has seen the news 3 or 4 days back that there is Akimullah Haqqani who was killed. He's a very big terrorist. He used to be a terrorist. Now he was minister in Afghanistan government and he was killed in the office 2-3 days back. Yes, have you seen that? Yeah. So he is the younger brother of a guy whose name is like the main Haqqani guy, and that guy used to be like I think I have shown you people the picture of that guy, the Haqqani. No, I haven't told you about the Haqqanis. No, need. Yeah. So this is the guy who was killed. Okay, this guy. Okay. This is Anas Haqqani. Just give me a sec. This is right now the Home Minister of Afghanistan. Okay. He could do a like advertisement for a beard company for sure. Yeah, like he has a great beard. If you see, yeah, maybe that's why he keep the whole thing up. Like it's secure his beard. Now this guy, okay. If you where is Mudul Haq? No. Oh, that's why I was not getting. This guy, another brand endorser of beard company, Anas Jalaluddin Haqqani. Okay, now he died in 2018, but back in when the war was going on, this war I was telling you about, the Charlie Wilson's movie you can watch. This guy was called by the Americans to the White House, and Ronald Reagan and other people had a meeting with him. Okay, and he was called as he was considered as the founding father of Afghanistan. Okay, and basically he is involved in all the illicit trades like opium trade, and then like if you want your money to go anywhere outside, anywhere in the world, you have to contact this person. Okay, like if you don't want to use the banking system, you want to Paytm. Okay, so no, not Paytm. Like if you want like millions and millions of dollars to be sent some part of the world, and you don't want anyone to know, this is the guy. Okay, he used to run such a big network. Okay, yeah, Walter, watch not the Rambo one. Watch Walter Charlie Wilson. Rambo third, yeah, Rambo second. Rambo second was also an Afghan one, but it's not. That's not. It's just Rambo going and killing the Afghan people. It's not good. Okay. Don't watch Rambo. Rambo is just like not even Afghan. The Afghans are like the petty people over there also. It's just Rambo going and killing the Russians. Okay, so that is also not true. So this guy was called by the CIA to fight, okay, on their side in 79 to 89, and then he was the guy who then established all the everything like Jalal. Now, for example, why I'm focusing on this so much right now, because this thing is in news that Jalaluddin Haqqani's brother is killed in a suicide blast. Why this is a big news? Every other day, some random guy killed in Kabul. It's like, yeah, it's their Taliban. We just don't know. Maybe that's their way of playing around. Let's kill him. We just don't know. The point is that Haqqanis are someone as a family who are close to the Afghan government. They are close to the ISI, that is in Pakistan government, and they also have contacts in American government for a very long time. So this is the safest family in Afghanistan. When someone from this family gets killed, the question arises that who they must have fought. Like imagine that everyone, like I have few enemies, that other person has few enemies, the person I consider enemy, that consider me enemy, but there is this one guy, everyone needs this person, and then this guy get killed. Then everyone thinks, okay, something must have happened. Who must have killed? There are three parties right now. One is Afghan Taliban, then is ISI, and then it's United States. And the Haqqani maintains relations with everyone, and then also an Haqqani get killed. That's why this thing is news. It's nothing to do with that the Afghan minister got killed. No one cares Afghan minister got killed. It's a Haqqani who got killed. So for that, you need to understand who the hell are Haqqanis, why they are even important. And for that, you need to understand this whole thing that is. For that, you need to understand this whole thing, the Russo-Afghan War of 79 to 89. So what used to happen? I'm just giving an example to the build up, otherwise you won't read on your own. The Afghan land is good for growing opium. Okay, when it's not very fertile, opium grows. It used to happen back in India also back in the day. So these people used to grow opium. Okay, when the Americans came to help even in 1979 to 89 period against the Russians, some transaction should happen in the country. You should not only get money without any reason. So what transaction which was happening in Afghanistan already was opium trade. Now opium is something which is illegal around the world. So the trade will also be illegal. And this guy was doing it. So he already knew how to do an illegal trade. And he used to send opium all around the world. Now the Americans used his network, and this time instead of opium, they were sending money. Got it? That's how Haqqani network was developed. Okay, and they used to call it Hawala. Hawala is a Urdu Persian word Hawala means responsibility. Like I do a hawala to you, so I give you the responsibility. Now, how they do it? Suppose, suppose you live in Manipur, and I know you. So what I'll do is, suppose there is a person who called me up in Manipur, and he was like, I immediately lack 10 lakh rupees. So I'll call you and I'll tell you that Simik, there's this guy who will come, give him 10 lakh rupees. I'm like, fine. Simik is immediately like, no, I won't, but you're fine. Suppose for a moment you're like, fine. And the next time you will give me a call and you'll be like, Swetank, there's this guy in Delhi, and give him 12 lakh rupees. So fine. So 10 lakh your payment and maybe 10% or 5% because you favored me on that, and then I'll give you that, and that transaction will be done. Now, even to establish that transaction, I need to know you personally. I should have some advanced relation. Now, this guy had that advanced relation with a lot of people and on the illegal trade side because of the opium. That's why the Haqqani network evolved. Even now, if you will see, Haqqani network is one of the biggest problem for the Indian government, because all the money which used to come for the militancy in Kashmir and all, it all came from Haqqanis only. Okay. Now, you will see that you know about Al-Qaeda. Okay. No? You don't know about Al-Qaeda? I always considered you a member. No. Okay. You know about Osama bin Laden? Yeah. So, Osama formed an organization. This was called as Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda, when it was found, what the meaning of Al-Qaeda? Anyone? What Al-Qaeda means? Al-Qaeda is an Arabic word. Al-Qaeda means the regulations of the God, or the rules of the God, rules and regulations of the God. That's what Al-Qaeda means. So when Al-Qaeda was formed initially, it was formed during this war only. The money which Haqqanis were bringing in from outside, the money which the ammunition or weaponry which the Americans were bringing in, someone need to be there to use it. And that's where Al-Qaeda came. So Al-Qaeda was basically made as an army regiment during this war. When the war ended, okay, then this war happened. During this war, Al-Qaeda shifted its position. In 1991, I show you articles in New York Times. Okay, for example, this one. That is the reason every time I tell people that Osama bin Laden was a very big fan of Arsenal, people don't accept it. But yes, he was. He used to go to watch matches of Arsenal in Europe. Okay. I still feel all the people who are supporters of Arsenal are like that only, but that's a different thing. Okay. So no. I have to show this thing to you. I think so. There must be somewhere. Might get it, might not. These are later on things. These are later on stuff. Yeah, this article. Look, what's the heading is? Can you read the heading? Yeah? You can't read the heading? Oh, sorry. Gone. Open whatever way we want. Why it's not open? hell. Now you can read that. What's it written? Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on the road of peace. Okay. What's the date? December 6, 1993. Okay. Here. That's which newspaper? Independent, which publishes in United States. Right? So there was this time where the Americans were basically supporting him. Okay. And how it all changed? It changed because of it all started in this war, and it all started in this war, and then transformed into this war. Right? So I'll just tell you what happened, and so to have some interest. In 1979, the Soviets entered Afghanistan and started killing people. When the people were killed, Osama bin Laden, who belonged to one of the richest family in Saudi Arabia, his family still is the richest family. Okay, his family is equivalent to DLF in India. Okay, his family is equivalent to the largest construction company, the biggest construction company in whole of Saudi Arabia. Okay, the buildings in Makkah, Medina of temple buildings are also built by them only. They are like the constructor or the builders for the royal family. Okay. So he got very upset because he saw it, the Afghan thing, as the Americans or the Soviets killing the Muslim people. So what he did, he left everything in Saudi Arabia and he went to Afghanistan. He had his own money, he used, and he made this ragtag militia, like few men who were fighting with him. Now, these people were fighting, and then the Americans entered, the Charlie Wilson guy and other people, and they brought in weaponry. That weaponry was used by like him, Al-Qaeda people and other people also against the Soviets, and Soviets lost. But when the Soviets lost in 1989, by that time he already had a army with him. For 10 years he was now running an army. Now his people also has men. He had men, and men had weapons, and they were answerable to him, and the war has ended. Now, that is one of a bigger problem, that what to do with people when what to do with the army when there is no war. Yeah. Now what will happen? In 1991, the Iraqis attacked Kuwait. Now, if you will see the world map, okay, or the Middle East map, Iraq, yeah. If you'll just see this map, I have to open that map. I was not able to. Okay, this will work. Not visible now. Yeah, many travelers are going to Iraq. Great. Don't have to do a survey on Iraq. This is visible or not? No. No. Now, in 1991, this is Iraq, and over here, this is a small country called as Kuwait. Fine. Iraq attacked this country. Fine. This whole area has oil. Fine. That means all the Iraqi oil is in the southeast part of Iraq. Whole of Kuwait also has oil, and the northeast part of Saudi Arabia as oil. But Iraq sent its forces into Kuwait, fine, and captured it within 72 hours. Saudis were terrified that what if now Iraq sends its forces in our territory and captures our oil grounds? Then what? What you will do? Fine. So the Saudis were really terrified. At this time, Americans also got terrified that if Iraqis captured it, then they will basically hold everyone at ransom. They will tell you that, okay, fine, you listen to us, or what you will do? You will gun us down or you will kill us. Then we will burn all the oil wells. That will also be a loss to everyone. Fine. So before the Iraqis could have entered in this territory, the Americans and the Saudis have to find a solution. Otherwise, no one in the world would have got oil. Everyone was terrified. At this time, Osama bin Laden, who was in Afghanistan, he went to Saudi Arabia back. And through his contacts, he went and he met the king of Saudi Arabia. And he told him that, sir, if you want, I will bring my army back to Saudi Arabia, the same army which was fighting with the Soviets, and we will fight the Iraqi army. So the Saudi king said that, who the hell are you? You are a terrorist outfit. Even if I need help, I will make my own army and I will call for a legitimate, official, formal army. Who you are? You are a militant group. So they sent him back. Okay, they didn't give him any importance. And then to tackle this Iraqi threat, the Americans came. This is called as the first Gulf War. And within 40 days, Americans pushed the Iraqis back. Right? But this time when the Americans came, Americans decided this place, Rama, they made a base over here. They told the Saudis that for your safety only, because you are unable to have a proper big military. So for your safety as well as our safety also, because we use maximum amount of oil, we will make a American army base in Saudi Arabia with your permission only. We won't use military in your territory, but we will keep our military here. So in case if Iraqis do something, we will be here. Right? Now this very action is something which Osama bin Laden didn't like. He said, his argument was, and again the same, the faith thing. He said that, look, the Americans are Christians, okay? And you should not allow non-Muslims to have weaponry on the Arabian Peninsula. Now understand this thing, there are certain rules and regulations in different places. Like for example, if you are not a practicing Muslim, you will be of Mecca. It's a rule, okay? If you're not a practicing Muslim, you won't be allowed in the city of Mecca. Mecca and Medina is there, the holy places of Muslims. So one has to be a Muslim, and that is so seriously followed that back in 1979, once there was this terrorist outfit, 7-8 boys, Muslim boys only. They went inside the main Mecca building, and they said that if the Saudi government don't accept our demands, we will blast the building. And then the Saudi government had to call in help from France, the security experts and the weapon experts and all those people, basically the army people, because the Saudis didn't have the capability. So these people, when landed, they had to go to the city of Mecca, and all of them were practicing Christians. They were French people, French men. So for 6 to 7 hours, these people were converted to Islam. And then they went inside the city of Mecca. They cleared up everything. They killed all these 7 boys. And then they came back and they converted to Christianity and went their home. Okay, so world is a very abnormal place. Okay, so now in 1991, Osama bin Laden says that leave about Mecca. You should not allow the Americans anywhere in Arabia. Why you are allowing them? Fine. And because you are allowing them, he started asking that the Americans should immediately go back, or I will retaliate against him. That is where the Americans and the Al-Qaeda started fighting. Right? Now, if you don't, therefore, therefore it is required that if you don't understand this war and this war, you will never be able to understand in proper manner that why the hell Osama bin Laden and Americans were even fighting. Understood? That's why these are the incidences in a queue which is required to be understood. Okay. Now, I just gave you one example, but almost every one of these are related to some of the current events which are going on. Okay. Like for example, the Korean War. Indian and Pakistanis are fighting all the time. Okay. Even the Syrians and the Iraqis don't like each other. Iranian and Iraqis also don't like each other many times. But you will not see anywhere in the world the amount of hatred between the South Koreans and the North Koreans. Why? Because the North Koreans don't have access to South Korean serials. That's a joke, but could be. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the North Koreans also see it. That's basically, that's. Sometimes I feel like South Koreans have made those shows just to threaten the rest of the world. Yeah. I've told you guys, I tried watching one. A friend of mine told me that Korean serials are nice, you watch it. So I started one, and they are too long. There was literally 1 hour long episode, and there were 16 episodes. And the whole story was that this guy was trying, like, initially he was too upright guy, and the girl was a widow, and then he was trying, then he fell for her, and they were trying to get married, but the guy's family, they had an issue. Like, what the hell? I could have, like, this is not needed to be even watched. I'm coming from India only. I see this thing every day happening. Okay. So yeah, I'll watch Hindi movies only. At least I don't have to read the subtitles. So like at my best, I watched 6 episodes, and then I was like, this is enough for me. But after that, my Netflix feed got all destroyed. I was only getting suggestions of Korean shows, and I had to sit for 2 hours and like redo the whole thing so that they don't show me Korean shows. There was so much Korean shows. Okay, so getting out of the Korean thing. But if you will see that, yeah, the whole crisis between the North Korean and South Korean is much more devastating. Like a lot of people think that why so much animosity? If you will see the Indian people and Pakistani people, government hate each other, but the people are fine. Okay, if you call up any person in Delhi and ask him randomly, him or her, would you like to go to Lahore? And they will see here and there, and they're like, yes. Okay. This people in North India have a different kind of infatuation with trying to learn Urdu. And the same thing, if we'll go to Pakistan, they have different kind of infatuation with trying to learn to Hindi. Indian people don't like to learn Tamil. Tamil people, like the North Indian, don't like to learn Tamil. The Tamil people don't like to learn Hindi. But the North Indians like to learn Urdu, and the Pakistanis like to learn Hindi. Okay, so the people-to-people relations are good. Government do whatever that knows you. But if we'll see in the Korean Peninsula, actually, the people also don't like mostly. So why? So if you'll try to understand this thing, you will get to understand that what really happened in the Korean Peninsula is, if suppose this is the map, this is China, and over there is like this, and this is your South Korea, and this is your North Korea. So what happened is, in 1950 to 53, first the North Koreans entered inside South Korea and captured almost all of South Korea. And then the Americans came and they pushed the North Koreans back, not only into North Korea, but the army of North Korea was pushed to Yalu River, up till the Yalu River. That is the border with China. And it was only when the Chinese army came in to support the North Korean, they were able to recapture up till the same line where they were before the war started. So in a way, once the North Korean army captured the whole of South Korea, and then the South Korean army for a while captured whole of North Korea. So the kind of destruction which the Korean Peninsula has seen, so the people in South Korea always think that these people like devastated our whole country, and the North Koreans think that these people devastated our whole country. Fine. So you need to have that logical idea that why this is there. That will only happen if you read these topics first of all, and then you jump into IR. So this is basically what we have to do in total. Okay. Now just let me open and we'll start this thing. I'll upload the notes after that, but let me just start. Okay, just give me a second, everyone. Fine. Okay. So we will start with the very basic topic. Is we have to do first of all section called as comparative politics. Okay. And what all you know about comparative politics? Anyone? Any idea? Like till now, anyone? Have you heard about comparative politics? Anyone? Yes or no? No. Yes. Tell me something. Comparative politics. Have you heard anything? No. No. Okay. So okay. Like, so, comparative politics, nature and approaches. Okay. I'll upload this thing after the class, but first of all, understand. Okay. The nature approach. Now, so what all you need to understand is there are 4 parts. Okay, what you have to study, and we will keep it in the logical sense so you can divide it easily and then run. First of all, that I told you political economy approach. So before jumping into it, that I told you a few minutes back that all the kind of comparison which we do in political science, whether we are trying to make a chart, we are trying to rank the countries, it's all a comparison. It's all part of comparative politics. But those are not elementary comparison. The elementary comparison will be either on the economic lines or on the socio-political lines. Okay, and then there are other also other reasoning. So we'll divide the whole section into 4 parts. Number one is the political economic approach, political economy approach. Then second, political sociological approach. Then the third one, which will contain all other kind of comparative methods. Okay, other approaches. And then we'll handle the limitations of these approaches. Okay, this is all what we have to study. We have to study the, as in like society, how society works. Society is always divided into political, economic and sociological things. This is how you can divide it. You can look at the society either in political line, sociological line or economic line. Now, over the period of time, we understood that politics will be available everywhere, no matter you do what. So politics will be there. Now we'll be focusing on political economic approach, political sociological approach, any other smaller form of approach which has evolved after 1970s and 1980s. We'll look into that, different models. And then the limitations of these approaches, that why these approaches themselves are not capable of resolving all your problems. Okay. Now, if you see in past year papers and have the analysis with me, around 45%, yeah, around around 38% times, political economy approach a question has been asked. Okay, so it just shows that almost every time, like, you have to understand that the political economy approach is the most important thing. Okay. Now let me just read you some questions, the kind of questions which are asked in the examination, and then I'll explain other parts. So for example, in 2021 there was a question: discuss the political economy approach to the comparative analysis of politics. Okay, it's a very direct question they ask in the exam. Like, if you understand what is political economy approach to comparative politics, okay, how you use the political economic perspective as a tool to understand the politics in a comparative manner, then you have to answer this question: discuss the political economy approach to the comparative analysis of politics. In 2018 the question was discuss the changing nature of comparative politics, briefly explain the political economy approach to the study of comparative politics. Right? So this is what basically they do most of the time. Now, so when we jump into first one, that is, we focus on the political economy approach. Political economy approach. Okay. Political economy approach. So, number one, you need to understand that the very basic things before we even start: the nature and scope of comparative politics. What is comparative politics? So we have discussed that very basic thing. What is the scope of comparative politics? Sorry, the scope of comparative politics is we use comparative politics to look into our society. how society evolves, how society works. Can, like, if you like, if I'll tell you that I know political science, fine. What this even know means? It's a subjective concept. Do I know political science? Yes, I know better political science than you people. So I can, in front of you, can say, yes, I know political science. Next time I meet Amada Singh, I won't say that I know politics. I'll keep my mouth shut. So what happens is, I know is a subjective idea. You need something to compare even to get to a logical conclusion, right? You need something to compare to go reach a logical conclusion. This is what scope is all about. Okay. To what extent this idea is implementable? What you are saying, is it a universal truth, or it only works under certain constraints? That is what scope talks about. Okay. Now, we have also to work on the idea of why it is important to understand comparative politics. Because again, like when we studied Aristotle, I told you that in the later part of his life, he wrote a book called as the Laws. Okay. And that was basically a book in which he has written a constitution itself. So when he got old, he was given this task for one of the city-state near Athens only, that if you can write our constitution. So what Aristotle did is, Aristotle at that time, while living in Athens, he studied 150 different constitutions of different city-states. And then based on that, he made a constitution for this country, this city-state, and called it the Laws. Now, when he is reading the 150 different constitution, what he is trying to do, he is using this comparative approach, okay, to finish out or carve out a new constitution. So that is the reason you will see many a time Aristotle is also called as the father of comparative politics. Okay, Aristotle is also called as the father of comparative politics. Now, so that's the fundamental thing you need to understand first. Now, there are various approaches, okay, to if you want, we can write this thing, but let me just explain this thing to you. That will be better. What do you think, how you can compare politics? Zimik, tell me. If I'll tell you, compare the politics, how you will do it? Think about it. If two different countries are there, okay, comparing countries are easy actually, because you hear about them, okay. If someone asks you to compare India with United States, how you will compare? The first thing, what you compare? Okay, fine. Let's do another exercise. If someone asks you which is better, India or America, like, and you don't have, like, if no one is, so no one will be able to. Zamik, fine. No one is to do anything. Tell us the answer. Tell us your real opinion. Tell me. Tell something, otherwise America. Fine. Yeah, cool. No issues. Okay. Now, there will be repercussions, but that will be later on. Now, tell me, how you reach that answer? Like, when you must have, like, even now, just now, you're joking, but yeah, when you decided that, something must have gone to your head. You must have thought about, no, the more opportunities. Opportunities to build your life, or even to freedom of living style, okay, or cultural acceptance, okay. These things must have gone through your head. Now you'll also like, hey, really, this many things? Yes, this many things goes to your head while in a subconscious manner. Yes, this is what happens, right? You must have thought about it. Yes, if I won't have been in New York instead of have been easy, or I would have like access to more opportunities and all those things. Yes, this only you have thought? Yeah, okay. Or you might have thought that I'll end up in Minnesota or something in Oregon, village in America. No. So basically what you have done is you have compared okay, the facilities which you are getting here and the facilities which you think you will get over there, okay, just as a citizen. That is what you have done. Now, this very thing is called as normative approach of comparative politics. Okay, but because what you have done, there are certain norms to live in this society, and there are certain norms to live in that society. Okay, everyone is aspiring towards something. In past 70-80 years, our society, the society in the developing countries, we have been taught in a manner that we are trying to be like Western countries. Okay, now I'm not saying it is true or bad or correct or wrong, but for all practical purposes, we are trying to emulate what those countries have done in early part of the 20th century. Okay, we are trying to do that. Now, if we are trying to do that as a community whole, then as an individual, you will obviously the norm says that you will try, okay, fine, I have to be like them, I have to be like them, I have to be like them, and then you will emphasize on this thing only. Okay, the facilities. Now this is the very thing which Aristotle also used, the normative approach. That is the constitution, the rules and regulations of the societies are compared, and then you see that as an individual where you will be at ease. That's it. Okay, so that is called as normative methods, because the norm of the societies are compared. I'll give you the notes, don't worry, just listen to it first. Understood what is normative method? So now if I'll ask you what is the normative method of comparative politics, you'll be able to tell me that you are comparing the norms of two societies and then reaching to a conclusion that where I will find myself at ease. That is the normative approach. Okay. Now, then there is another method which usually we don't do, but we should do. That is called as the historical method. Okay. In the historical method, we look into the history of a country, and usually the political history of a country. And then we as an individual try to relate ourselves that with which country we will be able to connect more, or whichever society, not country is not the correct word, but society. So we focus on the history of a society. Fine. Like an individual, you, me, everyone over here have evolved in past few years on a very liberal idea. And we are, even if someone thinks they aren't, they are. Because now what will happen now is if you compare yourself or the society in a with a country like Pakistan, you will find yourself at discomfort in that country, not because of the just because the religious idea, but the state's institutionalization of the religion. Okay, because you are born and brought up in a society where it has been taught that you will be free to pursue your faith, and there will be a generic acceptability, not complete, but the generic acceptability of your cultural idea. Okay, that if you that you will not find in that country. Now in that country, it doesn't mean that people will, the moment they will see you celebrating a separate festival from the majority group, they will kill you or something, but there will be a consistent threat that yes, that can happen, and that itself is more than enough to annoy someone. Okay, so historical approach talks about that you focus on the history, and more so political history of the community, and then you compare your own ideological individual stance, what you want to be like, and then accordingly you decide, okay, in comparison, that which is better, which is bad. So here, in the first way, the tools of comparison were the norms of the society. So it was called as normative approach. The second case we are using the tool is the history of the society. Okay, so we called it the historical approach. Fine. The third one is the legal institutional focus. Now, so what you would do, like for example, suppose, look at Saudi Arabia. Okay. Now, if you have seen news in past 2, 3, 4 years, Saudi Arabia is trying to revamp themselves, right? Yes, you must have seen it in the news. MBS is trying to invest money. Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, is trying to invest money in the tourism sector and other things to make his country more and more vibrant, right? Now, few minutes back, I gave you that example of that 6 or 7 men who entered inside the Mecca premises and then they had to be killed. Now, actually, the Saudi society or Arabian society prior to that incident was actually not that conservative. But after that incident in 1979, you will see the Saudi Arabian society became hugely conservative. Right? Now, what happened is that the society got closed more and more and they started working more on more theological approaches. So you will say that they were religious police roaming around the road. And even if a random woman, she was not wearing the abaya in a proper manner, then also the fines were there. Then there was no cinema hall in whole of Saudi Arabia. Okay, leave out clubs and pubs and those things. There was not even a cinema hall in whole of Saudi Arabia. Okay, you cannot, like even now, there's only one liquor shop in whole of Saudi Arabia, and that is also only open for people who are working in the embassy, who are outside. Now, so if you will see the historical approach of this country, you will keep them very low, right? You won't be, on the basis of historical approach, you will not like them. On the basis of normative approach also, you won't like them because the norms of that society is like that, right? Theologically. But recently in 3, 4, 5 years, what has happened is the Saudi Arabian government has taken a switched stance. A very interesting thing happened. First, they gave the right to women to drive all of a sudden. And then they didn't remove the religious police, but they have given a silent order to the religious police that even if you see some women whom you consider that they are not clothed properly, you will not say anything. Okay, so there is a tacit understanding that the police is not taking action on those things. So that's a change. Now, they are now conducting WWE matches in Saudi Arabia, and they have reopened all the cinema halls. So all of a sudden, there were a lot of cinema halls. And few days back, there was also some like all the movie stars and everyone is now jumping in. Ronaldo is now for full time living in Saudi Arabia. Okay, so Saudi Arabia had a law that a man and a woman cannot live together without marrying. And Ronaldo hasn't married his like partner. They changed the law to allow him to come and live. Okay, so what I'm saying is now you take the third approach, that is the legal institutional approach. Now, as per this approach, you will consider Saudi Arabia, if you are comparing in the places you would like to live, you will not keep Saudi Arabia bottom there. You will keep them above. You will say, okay, fine, whatever may be the norm, whatever may be the historical approach says, but we have to live by the legal institutionalized rules and regulation. And the legal institutional focus right now is on liberalism. They are allowing me to live a liberal life. So what you have done here, again, so as per historical approach, as per normative approach, in the line of whether you want to live in that country or not, if you are using comparative politics to take that decision, from the legal approach or from the normative approach, you would have kept Saudi Arabia very far down, maybe on number 150. But now you might keep them in top 10. You will say, financial opportunities are far, far superior in Saudi Arabia anyway. Right? So, and liberal opportunities are there, and they are not going to interfere in the way I dress myself, and they are not going to interfere in the way I live. And what's wrong? Right? So now from the legal institutional focus or legal institutional, that is the third approach, you will see Saudi Arabia getting up in comparative politics. Okay, so this is also a way of looking at things. Now, there are more methods, I'll come to it. But before that, now in the international world, in the real world, you will use the approach which is required at the time. Fine. Now, suppose there are two communities in a society who are fighting among each other. And they are fighting among each other because of some historical reasons. And you know this crisis is going on in these two communities for 200 years. And now you have to take a decision. Okay? And now you know that these two communities are fighting among each other. Now you have to shift to that country. So you will say that from the traditional approach, I don't know, I can go there because they are good people traditionally. But as per legal institutional method also, I can go there because government gives me liberal rights. But at this very moment, you are looking at them and you realize that these people are fighting, and they kept on fighting for 200 years back in history. So surely they are not going to end the fight tomorrow. And so you will use at this very time the historical approach to make your decision. So which approach you have to use to make your decision is also depends on the situation you are in. Okay? Does all these things make sense, or it's all like fine? Okay, now this is one method. Now there's another method that is called as qualitative method. Okay, now the traditionalists themselves rely on qualitative methods. Okay, like they will do what? They'll describe certain thing and interpret certain ideas, and then they look at how the quality of my life will improve. Okay, if that happens, then you will live. You will migrate, or you will be okay when comparing the countries. Okay. Discussing these things, after this, there is a last one, which is although not considered among the main reasons, but still should be understood. That concept is called as, in the comparative politics itself, is called as Eurocentrism. Eurocentrism. Have you heard about this concept? Eurocentrism? No, yes, anything? Eurocentrism. Have you heard about it? No? Give me a sec. Okay. What it talks about? The centrality of European idea. Now, a lot of people criticize also these things. Like, for example, since we live in a world which is based on European political thought. Yes, we live in a world which is based on European political thought. For example, the concept of universal human rights which we have is a European idea. The concept of liberalism, the concept of the authority of the state, it is all European idea. The authority of the state is a Hobbesian notion, who was born and brought up in England. Okay, the idea of liberalism initially came from Locke. The check and balances in this institution is a Montesquieu's idea, who was a French. Fine. Even our education system, which we follow in India, can be traced back to not British, but actually the French. It was Napoleonic Code of 1806, which had this, they used to call it lyceum schools. The schooling system which we have till 10th standard, 12th standard, board exam and everything, this is what Napoleon came up with. And then the Britishers copied from Napoleon, implemented for themselves, and then implemented in India also. Fine. So all our ways, all our things are based on the European idea. Because of this, you will see for a very long period of time, we have always considered Europe to be a better place. Okay. Like if someone asks you right now, where you want to live, Europe or US? Well, like Germany or US? Where? Okay. London or New York? London. Why? Why? Okay. Let's say Vienna or Los Angeles? Vienna or Los Angeles? Mostly people say Vienna. Okay. Like so the thing is, this is called as the Eurocentrism. So now, if you will, and if you compare, do you really think that the living standard of people in Prague, in Czechoslovakia, is better than the people in Delhi? Nah. Do you really think that there are not only that many cities now? There are not only Amsterdam and Berlin and Paris only. There are other places also. And every city has poor people, rich people, every type of people. So it can happen. Then you go to Paris and you will find someone who has a dilapidated house, who doesn't have the money. And you will come in Delhi and someone is rich. So why the rich people in Delhi will try to go and become poor people in Paris? They won't. Fine. But still there is a centrality of the concept that Europe is better than others. Now, whenever scholars started this Eurocentrism concept in comparative politics, then everything was kept aside. The historical approach, the legal institutional approach, the traditional approach, the normative approach, everything was kept aside, and they said, no, Europe is better. Now, if you have to compare, don't compare the countries. Don't compare US and UK or India and Germany. Compare the city of Brussels or the city of maybe Bangalore. What better suits you? Brussels or Bangalore? I didn't thought much. I'm just doing this exercise. That B and B is the only commonality. Brussels or Bangalore? I'll say Bangalore is much better place to grow right now. Fine. Right now, Bangalore is a better place to grow because it is still growing. So the city is growing. If you start moving, you move to that city and you live there, the growth of the city will make sure that you also grow. So even if you are doing nothing within 15 years, you will be doing better because the city has grown. So you will grow automatically on the city. Brussels has already grown as much it had to grow. Brussels was a very big economic place back 400 years back also. The chances and opportunities of Brussels growing anymore is very less. Fine. It has a lot of scenic places. It has a lot of architectural marvels, but that is all. That's good for tourism. You cannot live there as in present day, as in like unless and until you have a job in the Belgium government. Doesn't make sense to live in Brussels. Okay, but sounds good to. But the first idea, if you don't put this logic that the city is growing, which city is growing, and this and that, and economy and all that, then the basic logic will always like Brussels or Bangalore. Any day Brussels. Why? Because of Eurocentrism. Why? Because Europe also has Warsaw. Or like from a few minutes back, you told me London. London is not better than Delhi right now. London doesn't have Swiggy. London doesn't have Blinkit. How are you going to get your stuff? You literally have to go out to buy stuff. Do you know how much hassle it is to go out and buy your stuff? Okay. Now, so you need to understand that another method which was used to compare the countries was Eurocentrism. So now don't write this. I'll give you the notes. Okay. But you understood what is different method and how it has to be used. Okay. Now, so the basic difference you have to understand, okay, is the difference between the traditional approaches and the modern approaches. These approaches can further be further divided into traditional approach and modern approach. Fine, traditional approach and modern approach. So, traditional approach were normative approach, which is can be also called as philosophical approach. Okay. And modern methods are empirical methods, scientific methods. That's why I explained you that whole box thing. That in modern times, after 1945, we are focusing more and more on empirical methods. Okay. Then how you focused on how you perform this normative approach? By describing something. Okay, if I have to, by normative, traditional methods will do what? India is a good place, but Europe is a better place. What is good? What is better? Subjective concepts, right? These are subjective ideas. So these methods are descriptive in nature. Right? These methods are descriptive in nature. Here, modern times, you have Vienna is actually, like from many years now, Vienna has been every year topping the list either on rank 1 or rank 2, the best city to live in the world. And just like ease of doing business, they have indices, and on all indices, they different cities are given ranking, and Vienna is topping the rank. So there are statistical values. Fine, on which this answer is based in modern times. Understood? Then here what we are seeing, this is based mostly focus on legal and institutional analysis. Like in a descriptive manner, we will focus on what? We will focus on that we should live in India and not in Pakistan, because India is a secular country where the parliament as such behaves in a secular manner. That is not the case in Pakistan, because they already have a law that to become a prime minister of the country, no matter whether you have won election or even then, you have to be a Muslim. Fine. So the legal institutional analysis which when you performed, you saw that the liberal credentials are not maintained. Okay. So traditional method will talk about legal institutional discussion. In the modern times, we will not focus on that, but we will focus on what is actually happening. Leave out what Constitution says. Yes, the Indian Constitution also talks about a lot about secularism, but last few years we are not very sure. Okay, that can only be explained by the behavioralism. That is the how things are happening in current day and time. Okay, so in the modern methods, we will keep process like analysis of behavioralism and analysis of process. These are modern things, right? Then the whole idea of Eurocentrism or the Western world is good. This is also a traditional outlook towards the society. Like when you're comparing, you will say that Europe is better, or we should try to be like Western countries. We should imbibe their features. Okay, so Eurocentrism and Westernism, as in the Western countries are better. this is a traditional notion. But now, right now, you will see cross-cultural, okay, idea or the global idea. So, where you'll have better facilities, Belgium or Beijing? Beijing, any day. Better train, better net, better internet, better train connectivity, everything will be better in Beijing, not in Belgium. Fine? So, that idea. So, these are some of the way you can redefine the things we have already discussed into traditional and modern outlook. Like how it used to be considered back in the day and how we'll consider it now. Right? Confusion in this? Tell me. Does it make sense? Now, we will now focus on that the basic idea is political economy approach. Okay, now we can jump on that idea. Now, political economy approaches will look on the economic factors in the society to compare the societies. You can compare cities, you can compare countries, you can compare society, you can compare community, whatever you like, but the tool has to be economic in nature. Fine? For example, I'll dictate this part, but the core idea is that in the political economy approach, we study how economic theories and policies are shaped in the society by political process and how these in turn impact and explores distribution of power in a society. Okay, how the policies are made and then how these policies impact everything in the society. What are the core principles? The core principles are interdependence and interdependence of politics and economics, focus on power dynamics on this economy, the idea of state versus market debate, global capitalism and inequality of justice. All these things we have to look into. Like for example, again, let me explain that like one of a very big debate right now is inequality, right? That is something we'll study here. The global inequality, how globalism impacted this whole thing. That also we will discuss here only. Now, how historically the political economy approach has evolved. So think about it. Think. Who is the first guy who gave the prominence to economy in modern times? Right now, when we started the whole political science syllabus, if you remember, the very first definition we came up with is the politics is about the distribution of resources. Okay, and we explained that politics is about having the power to distribute resources. That's how we explained. That's a concept given by Harold Laswell. Okay, we started the whole political science sessions with this very definition. You need to understand that if it's about distribution of resources, then in modern times, we have to focus on the people who gave prominence to economy in the decision-making process of the state, right? So, who gave the initial importance to economy in the modern society? Modern society. Don't give me Aryabhat or Kautilya. Like, okay, Kautilya, who wrote Arthashastra. Don't do that. In the modern times. Have you heard about Adam Smith? Yes? Adam Smith. So Adam Smith was someone who wrote a book in 1776. The name of the book was Wealth of the Nation. This is the book which is considered where the whole concept of capitalism in the modern society was explained. Fine. So we can say that in the work of Adam Smith, then there was another guy called as David Ricardo, who came up with the rent theory, that how in the whole world it is actually the rent seeking which has the biggest business, biggest market, and how it works, how it operates. Okay. So rent seeking is another thing. So David Ricardo comes into play and his concept of rent seeking. And then the most important personality who divided or explained the whole society on the economic lines was Karl Marx. He is also many times criticized for economic determinism. Okay, we have discussed this thing that Antonio Gramsci later on said that Marx was influenced too much by the economic determinants alone, and that's why he always saw everything on the economic lines, material gain and material loss. So you can say that the classical political economy in modern day and time, classical political economy is based on the ideas of three people. Who are the three people? Adam Smith, David Ricardo, and Karl Marx. Okay. Now, understood this much? Okay. Now, what is neoclassical economics then? Just revamp. This is something we have discussed. But anyway, neoclassical economics. There was this guy about whom we have discussed, John Maynard Keynes. We have discussed about Keynes? Yes? What we have discussed? Any idea? What Keynes said? Keynes said something very interesting. Something very good which is even implemented in India even now. What J.M. Keynes said? John Maynard Keynes. We have discussed this thing, the Austrian school and Maynard Keynes and his issues with Maynard Keynes on the Austrian, like we have, no? Yeah. So, look, George Maynard Keynes argued on these lines and he said that the wealth works in a form of a cycle. Okay? And the cycle has two paddles, demand and supply. If there will be demand and there will be no supply, the market will fail. If there will be supply and there will be no demand, still the market will fail. There has to be demand and there has to be accordingly supply for the market to grow. Now, he explained that everything, all the market problems can be explained in this format only. That either there was demand and there was no supply, or there was supply and there was no demand. For example, in 2008 crisis, the 2008 subprime loan crash happened and then the global economic crisis came. If we'll go into that, what happened? In United States, they made a lot of homes. Too many homes. There were not that many people. Or the people didn't have that much capability. And when there were too many homes, people had to sell it. No one was able to buy it. So what they started doing, they started giving people loans. Loans which people were unable to pay. Fine. So there was supply of houses, but there was no demand to buy houses. And they created a fake demand. Fine. And that demand fell after a while and the market fell. So all the economic crisis, all the problems can be explained in form of demand and supply. Now Maynard Keynes says that if one of the paddle is working, another paddle is not working, then government should intervene. Okay? For example, in India, the people in villages didn't had money. A very simple thing. If you should have bare minimum money to fulfill your basic essentialities, no matter how much free ration and free kerosene government will give you, that will not able to sustain you. You need free liquid money in your hand to do some transaction, because the demand and supply will not be created by government giving you free food, because that's an institutionalized system. Market is not working. You have to do something to make the market work. What Maynard Keynes suggested or how it was implemented in India. Government of India came up with a scheme called as NREGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme in 2006. It was made into an act later on, but it was initially introduced in 2006. The government back in the day said, back the money has increased, that every individual who is ready to do hard manual labor, nothing else, they are ready to do manual labor, government will assure them 100 days of work at the cost of 100 rupees per day. So in a way, government guaranteed that every year, now it has increased a lot. Now it is somewhere is 200, 210, 230 rupees. And then the number of days have also increased. But in the initial days, 2006, they said that government will assure you that out of 365 days, you will get employment for 100 days, no matter who you are. And they will also give you for these 100 days 1,000 rupees. Okay. So government created supply as well as distribution of money in hands of people. Now, when these people will have this money, what they will do with this money? They will spend it, because these are not very rich people. These are not like multi-millionaires. They will not going to invest it back into the market. No. These are the people who need this money urgently to fulfill their bare minimum needs. Okay? Yes? So what will happen? This money will immediately go back into market, creating more demand. And the cycle of demand and supply will go faster and the economy will rise up. Fine? Maynard Keynes was criticized for giving such ideas. He was told that this external impetus, that is, you trying to put money from outside the market into it, is wrong, because you are kind of deflecting the market. Let the market grow on its own. Okay? And the Austrian school, and led by people like Friedrich Hayek, they said that market has its capability to manage itself. That is invisible hand of the market. So Friedrich Hayek and other people said that you don't invest money in the market. Yes, there might be a situation that demand will go up, supply will go down, or supply will go up, demand will go down. But after a while, it will reach balance. Let the market do it, and you will get a strong economy in the long run. Right? But then Keynes replied to this idea by saying that in the long run, we are all dead. And I need the solution now. Right? He explained that if people are poor right now, government responsibility is to fulfill their requirements right now. In the 100 years later, if someone tells me, if I am hungry right now, and government will tell me, don't worry, be hungry, your grandson will have food. Should not be the case. Right? So these ideas are considered as part of the neoclassical economy. Okay, in the 20th century, people like John Maynard Keynes and prior to him, Friedrich Hayek had this debate. Hayek says that don't interfere in the market tools. And Maynard Keynes says it is essential to. Fine? This is the basic logic. Now explain me if it doesn't make sense. I'll explain you 10 more times, no issue. But this is very essential that you understand. Because all the government policies in India right now are basically functioning on John Maynard Keynes' idea only. Policy, whatever money government gives to people now, okay, like whether it is like you will see, instead of going for like back in the day, government used to give subsidy on LPG cylinders. But what the government did, government said, okay, no, we will increase the prices of the cylinders and we will give the money in your bank account. Right? That is based on Maynard Keynes' idea. That if you put subsidized cylinders, then still you are controlling the market. Okay, you don't control it. You let that thing go on the market price and then you help people in increasing the supply or increasing the demand, not supply, increasing the demand. Fine. Now, tell me again if you understood the Maynard Keynes and this whole argument or not. No? Confusion? Yes? Little bit? Bit confusing. Okay, I'll look, I'll do it again. This is essential. You need to understand this thing. Now, okay. Now, if you make a price curve with time, okay, as and when the price increases with time, okay, with the increase in price, supply will also increase because the owner of a product will try to sell more product on higher prices. So with increase in prices, the supply will increase, okay, but demand will decrease. When the prices will be higher, the demand will go down. Right? Now, fundamental economics by Adam Smith says, classical economics, is there will be a point where they will match. And this will be the correct price of the product. And then everyone should try that it is maintained throughout the time. Got it? This is what is needed. Got it? Now, this is one part of it. Now, this is classical economics, which was propounded by Adam Smith in 1776. What if before reaching here, the whole thing fell down? Okay, then whose responsibility is it is to make sure that it goes here and that thing comes here? That is where Keynes comes into. Keynes says that there will be a demand, there is a supply, and we should make sure that demand and supply should come at an optimum point and market should boom, market should grow. But what if it is not happening? What if everyone is terrified? Like, for example, after the 2008 banking crisis in America, everyone got terrified. And people stopped, or banks stopped giving loan to people. They gave too much loan to people. People were not able to return the loan. That's why banks fell. So after 2008, banks decided we will not give loans to people. Now, if banks will not give loans to people, loan is a product. If banks are not giving loan to people, that means supply will stop. If supply will stop, no matter how much demand is there, it will not work. Right? So what the American government did? American government gave $700 billion to the banks to make sure that they continue the supply. Because otherwise the whole cycle would have stopped. That here, the bank loan is a product. In NREGA, in the case in NREGA, you will see the people create demand. When the people didn't had money, they were not creating demand. Yes, government was giving, like government procured. Like that, government can take everything. Why the hell we are even here, right? So government doesn't want to do that. Government want you to participate in the process. Otherwise, what the hell you will do? Watch TV and sleep. Fine. So government has to create situation for people to participate. Otherwise, government can say everyone, okay, fine, we will provide everyone food and we will provide everyone clothes. Now we will also tell you what to do and you behave like that. Is that a good way to live in your life? No. But government can do it if it starts doing it, but that's not. So what government says in the, like what happens otherwise? There are poor people. Poor people don't have money in hand. Fine. So government did what for a very long period of time? Government gave them free ration. Okay. Did it impacted people? Yes, people didn't die, at least out of hunger. Good. But what after that? Did it improve people's life? No. Because what they will do, they'll get food, they will eat food and keep on making their life miserable. They need money in their hand so they can do something. That is the only way to improve their situation of their life. Right? You cannot improve your life with 10 kg of rice. Also in a society where everyone has got 10 kg of rice. Okay? But if you have got 100 rupees, you might go in that very market where everyone has rice and you buy oil and you start selling oil to rest of the people in that society at a higher price. You will make the money, you'll buy the more rice from them and you'll buy more oil. That's where the margin, that's where you will build your life. So government understood this after doing 50 years of this free ration, that this is not going to improve people's life. People's life will only improve if they will have free in their hand. That is called as liquid money. Okay. Now, so government decided what we should do. We should give them money. But if we'll start giving money people with no reason, then also it's bad. How much money will make and how much money will go give. This will lead to inflation in the society. So what you did, government, what they did? Government created job opportunities, okay, for people. What job government can create? There are fixed number of jobs only. Government cannot create random jobs. So government actually, in a country like India, it's in a developing stage. And if you'll see, the countries in the developing stage has always requirement of big infrastructure. Right? So we created labor intensive job in infrastructure. And we gave it to these people. That's how everything is done. Right? Now these people will have this money in their hand. If you want to give them free ration, good. Keep on giving them. But that free money is very essential. Because otherwise you will not be able to develop the economy. Okay. I always explained it back in the day that have you people seen a hand pump in a village? Hand pump. Have you people seen a hand pumps? There is a hand pumps like you have to pull and then water comes out. Yeah. Now you will use it. Yes. Good for you. You haven't? Yeoman, you haven't? Okay. I was like, Yeoman, you still already moved to San Francisco. Okay. Walter, have you used a hand pump? I don't know. Walter might not have. Walter likes to go to rich and developed city of Dhaka. So he might not have heard about hand pumps. Now, if a hand pump doesn't work, what you do? If you are pushing it down, but the water is not coming up, what you do? So you people haven't used hand pump that much. Yeah, no, what do people do? Walter, any clue? Like if you are like using the handle, pushing it down, but the water is not coming out, what do you do in a hand pump? Think about it. No clue? No, haven't used the hand pump enough. Sorry? Yeah, I told you, San Francisco. No. Yeah. what you do is you pour some water from the top. When you have to push the hand pump down and water is not coming up, you take like a mug of water from somewhere else, a bucket of water, and then you pour it from the top. Okay, what it will do is, well, I'm teaching you people plumbing in this class. Good. So suppose this is your hand pump. Okay, something like this, and then have like a washer here. Hook it up, and then there's a stand. Okay, like this. What you do is you put some water from top. What this water will do, this water will get fixated here on the corners, and the water bubbles, which will create a vacuum here. Okay, when the vacuum is created, it will pump up, pump down, pump up, pump down. Then the water from down will try to fill the vacuum, and this water will rise up. When there is no water and this air is passing through here, then the water stops coming out. Fine. So the mug of water you are putting up to make sure there is no water and water bubbles are filling this rubber bands on the sides. That is what Maynard Keynes is doing to the economy by putting money from outside. Okay, this vacuum is nothing but demand. This vacuum is nothing but a demand. Got it? So that's how it works. Now, give me a sec, people. This is a very important call. My home internet is not working. This was very essential. A friend of mine came last night and he fell on the modem itself in the house. So the modem fell down. And I'm still thinking what the hell he was doing in the room. I was like, it just fell. So no internet from yesterday. That's why you don't have your notes in your hand. Sorry for that. It will be done for today evening. Understood what I'm trying to say? Look, this is the worst example I come, like hand pump. But yeah. So what is the vacuum? That is the demand. That is created by money which is introduced by the government only. Okay. If you will see, like if you get any chance to read about the Indian economy between 2009, 10, 11, 12, one of the major issue Indian economy had was inflation. There was a time in 2012, 13 when Indian inflation reached up to 12 or 13%. And there was so much issue because the bank interest rate was 7% and inflation was 12%. So basically, if you have just got 1 lakh rupee and you put it in bank for 1 year in a bank savings account or fixed deposit, then what happened is next year you have lost 5% because the inflation is 12% and the bank interest rate is 7%. So actually, you put your bank in you put your money in a bank account and you lost 5%. That was happening. That was happening because of this thing only. That is demand and supply. In hope of creating demand, government pushed a lot of money in the market. But that was also the same time when India got the highest growth. Those were the only years when India was getting consistent 9 to 10% growth of GDP. So this is a bargain. Every time there will be high growth rate, there will be inflation also. Okay, growth rate usually doesn't come without inflation. So you have to decide what you want. If growth is important, inflation will come. You have to optimize it. Now, understood this thing, basic idea. Now understood demand, supply, Maynard Keynes, what he was saying. Okay. Now, this very idea or this very tweak which he did here. Okay. that in case if it is not reaching here, it is reduced, then we have to take steps that this curve should reach up till here and this curve should reach up till here. This step was added in neo-classical economics by John Maynard Keynes. He devised this idea in 1930s, okay, but it was implemented by different countries at different times. For example, America implemented it in 1933 itself. Okay, India it implemented it in 2000s. Right? So that is the idea of the 20th century revivalism of Maynard Keynes' idea. Now, what is happening in contemporary global concerns? What is happening in contemporary global times? Tell me this and we'll leave the class. We are now living in the neoliberal world. Neoliberalism is going towards the same guy which I have told you that was opposing John Maynard Keynes. What his name was? Friedrich Hayek. He was saying that don't invest this money. Let the system grow on its own. The neoliberal that was neoclassical liberal economy. This is neoliberal economy. Okay, in the economic thing, they talked about that this don't interfere at all with the demand and the supply curve. If there is no demand, let it be like that. It will come over time. Right? Like recently, the most recent example is the country of Argentina. Have you guys seen the president of Argentina? He's more threatening man than Haqqani's. I'm not joking. Because what he did, his country was having a lot of problems, economically speaking. For example, what the problem was, like overall every year the inflation rate was very high. Country, okay, and cost also was very high. Government has to invest a lot of money. So what he did, he just came and he said cancel everything. So suppose he said that no free rations to people, no free hospital to people. Okay, everything which government was doing free of cost for the people, he just cancelled it. And officially speaking, he improved the situation of the government. So government budget went from negative to positive. But what is happening on the impact of people or the community, that will only get to know after 10 years. And he is saying that I am following the Friedrich Hayek model. Let the people be in that situation, they will come up with something. Because the market is capable of handling the situation. Now, it's a very big debate because what he did is also going to be copied in the United States now. Donald Trump fought the election on that very idea, the neoliberal idea. Okay, so if you have followed American election, you might have seen there is the one famous guy, Elon Musk. Okay, he is saying exactly the same thing, the Friedrich Hayek model. And let's implement in America also this to reduce the American costing. Fine, that is the neoliberal economic model. Now, will it be good? Will it be bad? Now, let me explain this. Everyone who has made money appreciates, already have made money. Okay, so if you'll go out to ask Jojo, he will tell you neoliberal model is good. If you'll ask me, I'll tell you John Maynard Keynes model is good. So, because if you already have money, okay, you don't want other people to have it. If you are you're in the process of making money, you're like, no, this fine is. Okay, don't tell people outside I give you this example. But yeah, so this is how it works. Okay, so in India also, you will see that government, for example, is trying to now to you hear it more that government is doing privatization. Privatization is nothing but government trying to move from Maynard Keynes to Friedrich Hayek. Okay, that is the government investment should reduce. Let the private people should handle it. And when the private people handle it, then the problem comes. For example, how should I explain? Okay, you people usually take flights or train while coming here. Flight. So have you ever noticed then when you go from Delhi, your houses, wherever you are living in Delhi, to the Delhi airport, the charges of the cab are lesser than when you come from Delhi airport back to your home? Have you noticed this? No? Okay. I travel a lot, so I know. For example, when I take a cab from my home to Delhi airport, it costs me 250 rupees, 260 rupees. And when I come out of Delhi airport and I take the same cab from Delhi airport to my home, it costs me 600 rupees. Right? So how that much difference? Okay, I can understand the price regulation and also it can happen. Then one driver is asking me 250, another asks me 300. But how this much, like one while going it is always 250, while coming it is always 600. So basically what happens is the government has given the airport to run the airport to a private company. Now the private company regulates the airport and entry and exit to the airport. Now, me as an individual, when I'm going to the airport, I have a flight ticket. And if you see the flight ticket, it already has a thing, airport maintenance charges. So I have already paid the airport maintenance charge. So they cannot ask me more money. And since I'm sitting in the car and I have a valid ticket, I should be allowed to go in. So I am allowed to go in with the cab. But now when a cab is coming to pick me up, fine, the cab is entering alone. And the airport authority doesn't need to allow the airport driver to come and pick me up because the contract is between me and the driver or me or the cab company, not the airport authority. So they will charge something like a 300 rupee from the cab company for letting the cab company enter inside the airport. And where the cab company going to make that money? From me. So they directly add it into my bill. Right? Now this would not have happened if the airport should have been controlled by the government, or even if the airport would not have been a monopoly market. Okay, the problem is that places like a bus stand, places like an airport are monopoly market. City will have one airport. It won't be like there is one airport where the tickets is cheaper, whereas one airport where tickets are higher. One city will have one airport. When you give it to a private player, then the issue comes in. Right? So that's the ill impact of Hayek model also. So both the Friedrich Hayek model as well as John Maynard Keynes model both have different problems and both have benefits. If a country can grow with whatever cost through a Friedrich Hayek model, it is actually the best thing that will happen. The problem is I have never seen any country in the world growing completely and totally following only the Friedrich Hayek model. It doesn't happen that way. Because again, the same thing, which Maynard Keynes says, unless and until people will have money, and if we'll go by Hayek's model, people will never have money on the bottom. Right? So yeah, that's all. Let's catch up tomorrow and we'll proceed from here. And I'll also give them the notes for this if my internet gets working today. Or I'll come in the morning, 7 o'clock. I'll sit outside and make notes. Okay. Queries, questions, please ask me. Yeah. Something? Huh? I am not getting anything. You have to shout. Non-constitutional body and a statutory body. Yeah. So your handouts have those things. Okay. Those handouts have. I'll explain. It's not. I'm just telling you to reread it also. Now, constitutional body is a very standard thing. Any body which is directly mentioned in the constitution is a constitutional body. That's it. There's no other definition. No, nothing else. Like election commission is mentioned in constitution. It's a constitutional body. Okay. Comptroller and Auditor General Office of CAG is mentioned in constitution. It is constitutional body. So any body like National Commission of Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe is mentioned in constitution. It's a constitutional body. Okay. National Commission for Women is not mentioned. It's not a constitutional body. Now, statute, to understand what is a statutory body, what is non-statutory body, you need to understand what is a statute. In any country, the law book, the legal code book is called as the statute. STATUE. So any body which has been created, any body, any institution which has been created by a law of the parliament, this will be called as a statutory body. And any body which is created by the executive order, like a Niti Ayog. How Niti Ayog is created? It is created by a general letter from the office of the Prime Minister. So, fine. It's a non-statutory body. Sometime what usually the hierarchy should be, the constitutional body should be most powerful, then the statutory body, and then the non-statutory body. But we have seen in the society it being happening that the non-statutory body many a times has much more power, okay, than the statutory body. Okay? Yeah. I had missed your lecture on part. Yeah, those. Walter will discuss it in a Zoom call or something. Okay, I'll discuss those pointers, what all have to be done, and I'll send you a PDF. Okay, so you can go through it. Okay, I'll just do it right now, otherwise I'll get confused. Just give me a sec. Just a moment, Walter. Okay, I've sent you a file, you will get it. There was this question that asked, why is caste identity in India fluid and static? Which year it was asked? Tell me if possible. Walter, which year this was asked? Oh, GS2 it was asked. Okay, fine. That's why I was like, I haven't seen this question. There was this question asked, why is caste identity in India fluid and static? What does it mean? I'll have to read the question. Just give me a sec. I'll just Google it. Caste politics in India. Okay, the question is, why is caste identity in India both fluid and static? Yeah. So basically what happened is, look, in India, what the issue is with the caste politics, whenever an individual achieves a certain level of economic independence, okay, then the caste really doesn't matter. But every time, whenever the requirements of essential requirements, economic or otherwise, are not fulfilled, then a person has to fall back on caste identity. Okay, so you will see in many scenarios people not recognizing themselves with their caste identities, but the same people in some other instances will consider the caste to be important. You will usually see a person in a situation, a desperate situation, only will fall back to caste identity. Like Prabjot Jodhka, who's a sociologist, he talks about this. He says that, look, a person asserting their caste identity, it only happens if the state is unable to fulfill the essential requirements. If a state fulfills the requirement that the caste identity doesn't have to be asserted by the individual. Okay, so you will see that it's fluid and static at the same time. It is fluid, that if you are economically capable, you are able to fulfill your basic requirements, okay, you will not assert your caste identity. But when you fall back and the state is unable to help you, then the caste identity comes to play. Okay. That one thing only, constitutional, fine. Tell me.